Welcome everyone to the overview of MyFundAccounting. So I'm Stephen and there'll be two other colleagues that will be going through this webinar today. So there'll be Paula first of all and then Carrie later on, and then I'll be coming back in at the end just to go through payroll, the different payroll options. So what we'll be covering in this webinar today, if I click onto the next screen. So over and above Finance Coordinator, so we'll start with having a look at the features we've retained and improved from Finance Coordinator in MyFundAccounting. Then we'll look at new ways of entering transactions, so new ways of getting information in, import facilities, so you don't necessarily have to enter transactions, pulling information from bank statements either through an import file or directly from the bank accounts. Then we'll be having a look at dual authorization. So how you can control and make the payments directly from MyFundAccounting. How, again, a new feature with the online version, how you can create users, restrict their access so they can do just certain parts of the program. They can't have access to everything. You can control what parts of the program they can and they can't do. If you've got a multi-church version or if you've got a multi-branch version, you can give them access to individual branches or the whole group if you wish. So we'll go through setting that up. Then we'll have a look at reports and producing different consolidated reports and different groups for consolidated reports. And then new features that we've got added in of producing, creating and producing invoices with payment links. So you can send an email out with an invoice and a payment link. The person receiving the invoice can simply click on the payment link and make the payment directly into your bank account, and then that's tracked and processed as a payment in MyFundAccounting. We'll go through all that later on. Rollback mode, so kind of a restore mode for the online system. Testing area, you can try out different transactions, see how they affect the reports, and payroll option in there as well. So we'll be having a look at all of those different options today. So I'm going to stop the slide presentation and we'll screen share to MyFundAccounting. So let me just switch this over. It should be that one. No, it's not that one. Let me try that again. There we go. So switch that over, and I say we'll just be changing the person. So I'm going to hand over to Paula. If you hold on one moment.
Hello everybody, and thank you Stephen for that introduction. So Stephen just wanted me to mention there that also on the right side of your screen you'll also see that there is a chat facility. So if you do have any questions or any queries about anything that we're going through or anything additional that you just wanted to ask one of the members of our team, we've got people monitoring that chat throughout the presentation and we'll be responding directly there for you. Okay, so from there, as Stephen said, what I'm just going to cover is I'm going to cover a little bit of how MyFundAccounting and Finance Coordinator compare to one another. So what features have been migrated across, how they've been improved, how they've been added to just to make it a better application and built on the foundations of the desktop program that we had for many years prior. So the first main difference between the two applications is that MyFundAccounting is a cloud-based application. So basically what that means is it's hosted onto the internet rather than a software that you install locally onto your machine. Some of the benefits of that are that it can be accessed by any internet device. So where Finance Coordinator was limited to just a Windows-based operating system, MyFundAccounting can be used on Windows. It can be accessed using an Apple Mac. You can use it on a tablet. We have had people use it on a phone. It can be accessed by most internet-enabled devices. Another benefit of that is the ease of being able to have multiple users, which Stephen's going to talk about a little bit more later on, and also the fact that the information is shared. So your church's finances can be accessed and viewed and amended and added to by users within your organisation simultaneously. So rather the desktop application, if more than one individual was having to work on the accounts, you were having to pass data back and forth and ensuring that you weren't working on it at the same time and building up that kind of routine and that schedule. MyFundAccounting eliminates all of that. You can have two individuals logged into their separate user accounts doing different things on the application as and when they want to, and if there's a crossover with that information, that's absolutely fine. The system will just be updated accordingly. Okay, so looking at the application itself, when you first log in, much like with Finance Coordinator, you'll have this main central page. So when you first log into your account, you'll be taken to what we refer to as the dashboard. Over on the left-hand side of the dashboard, you see we've got some quick access buttons, and these are these little buttons just down the left-hand side there. And these are the options that we feel you will most likely access more often than not, or that you'll log into the system to access immediately, quickly. So you've got My Profile, which is where you handle all of your profile information. You can update your details, you can change your password, update your email address. That's all under My Profile there. You've got the record income, record expenditure screens, standing orders, so you can quickly access your standing orders and process them, bank reconciliation, and then list transactions, which is of course your full list, your full database of all of the transactions, all of the information that you've entered onto the system. Across the top here, you've got your menu bar, and this is where you'll find all of your, like the full list of facilities and options within the application. Under the Create menu, you've got your Accounts Assistant, which is where you would set up your accounts, much like the Accounts Assistant that you had within Finance Coordinator. So you've got your initialization. So if you're starting on this system completely as a new user, you would initialize the accounts, and there are various different options that you can choose from. So you can have a completely blank setup, or if you're part of Church of England or the Church in Wales, for instance, or one of the other predefined nominal codes that we've set up on the system, you can choose that and then initialize with that set of accounts. So Church of England has a specific set structure that they want to use, that they want all of their churches and parishes to use. So that's already on the system, and initializing with that account will populate your nominal codes, your funds, your income and expenditure with those predefined accounts there for you. You also got your screens where you would set up your funds, set up your nominal codes, input your starting balances, and so on. So that's exactly the same as it was in Finance Coordinator there. Under the Transactions menu, we've got your Transaction Assistance, and again these work in a very similar way to the way that they did within Finance Coordinator. So if I go into Income and Expenditure and then go on to the Income Assistant, we can just go through and record a very simple income transaction. So up at the top, it tells you what part of the process you're going through. You'll see that this one is a 5-step process, the 5th step being an overview of what you've input and your chance to just double check that everything is there as it should be. So the income assistant is just for very straightforward income transactions, so one amount going into the bank at a time. So perhaps we've been handed a one-off donation. So we're going to record it onto the system. So I'm going to choose one-off gift aid gifts as the nominal code. Down at the bottom, we can enter in our description. So I'm just going to, nice and simple, donation, and then go to next step. Step 2, it's asking which bank account the money was paid into. So we'll just leave that at the current account. And again, we'll just put donation as the reference down at the bottom. The date of the transaction, we'll say it came in on the 30th of March. Reference, nice and straightforward. And we'll say that the amount was £20. Step 4, it asks us which fund the transaction relates to. So we'll just say that it's general. And again, we'll click on next step. And now we're on the final step, which is step 5. And as I said, this is a step where it's going to overview everything that you've selected so you can ensure that everything is exactly as it needs to be. There is one slight difference, one slight improvement from the Finance Coordinator system, is that with your transactions, you can now attach files to them. So if this donation had some paperwork attached, for instance, just a note from the donor or something like that, that you wanted to link to this transaction, you wanted to keep it as part of your records, as part of your audit trail, you could make a scanned copy of that document and then upload it to attach it to the transaction. And that's just this button down here, which I'm not going to go into too much detail about because Carrie's going to talk you through how to get that set up, how to activate MyFundAccounting so that facility is available to you. So for this particular item, I'm just going to click on Save and Post. And just like in Finance Coordinator, there it comes up with your little confirmation message and your audit number. So we'll say OK to that. Expenditure Assistant works in exactly the same way. It takes you through the process step by step. The only main difference being that rather than giving you a list of income codes to choose from, it gives you a list of expenditure codes to select. Also under the Transaction Assistant, as well as being able to access the record income, record expenditure screen from the dashboard, you've also got them from the transaction menu. So if you're going through something else on the system and suddenly realise that you need to record an income transaction, rather than having to go back to the dashboard, then navigate to record income or record expenditure, you can just go straight to the little drop down here and then choose the appropriate item. So I'm going to choose record income, just to show you how this looks compared to Finance Coordinator. And you'll see that the overall layout of it is almost identical. We've got the left-hand side of the screen, which is where you put in all of your bank account details. And then over on the right-hand side is where you then break that amount down by the expenditure code, or if we're on the income screen, the income code. And you'll see that we've got this little red box with where the expenditure code is, and that's quite a recent addition to the application, again to almost mimic how it was in Finance Coordinator, where you had the green background for income and the red background for expenditure. It just makes it easier because the two screens are quite visually similar. That colour scheme is just a way of being able to visually identify that you're on the record expenditure screen or on the record income screen, which would have a green background here rather than the red. The idea being that green is good because that's money coming into the church, and red is bad or negative because that's money coming out of the organisation. So let's just go through recording an expenditure transaction here. So again, we'll pop in a date. I'm just going to choose the 25th of May 2023. We select the bank account, so we'll say that it was taken out of the deposit account. The amount we'll have as £100, just something nice and easy. We could pop in a check number if we wanted to, or if we'd been using check numbers for a while, we can click on the add next check number and the system will populate it based on the last check number that was used. Into reference, we'll just put collection, and then in the description, again, we'll just use collection. We're just using nice, easy, straightforward references and descriptions, but the reference and description can be whatever you want it to be. It's essentially your way of being able to identify that transaction at a later date. So they're just text fields that you can just type into. Now, the difference between the record expenditure and record income screen in comparison to the income and expenditure assistance that we had a look at a moment ago is they give you a bit more flexibility. More often than not, when you receive or pay out money from your organisation, it could be made up of multiple elements. So it's not just a straightforward donation, or it's not just a straightforward gas bill. It could be a gas and electric bill and so on. So this screen enables you to break it down into those different elements. So under the expenditure account, I am just going to, let's use, oops. So we'll just use their giving to missionary societies. But of the £100, we'll say only 50 of that was paid out for this reason. So we'll click onto store. And just like it would have in Finance Coordinator, down at the bottom of the window here, you've got an extra little table, and this gives you the breakdown. It shows you the elements that you've gone through, that you've recorded, so that you can keep tab on what's going through. So we'll click on add new element, and we can enter the remaining £50, and we'll just put that as home mission £50, but we'll say that it was for the fabric fund restricted. Okay, a difference with the selections between this screen and Finance Coordinator is gives us more of a bit of a flexibility of how we can populate windows and how we can use screens. So where in Finance Coordinator you would have had little pick list buttons and so on, obviously now we've got just little drop down lists that we can choose from, and it just makes it a little bit easier. It just makes it a bit more speedy. There's less buttons to click on and just streamlines it a bit more for you. So also, you've also got the option here that you can add documents or attach receipts or any paperwork to the transactions. So I'll click onto store there and post. And again, there's the confirmation, there's the audit number. So we will say OK to that. Under the transactions, just going back to transaction assistance, most of the assistants that we've migrated across work in exactly the same way. They take you through the screen step by step. The steps as they were in Finance Coordinator are the same within MyFundAccounting. One that has improved, however, is the sales and purchases. So when you're recording invoices, or you're processing invoices for haul hire or things like that, you now have the facility to actually produce an invoice, so a visual invoice that you can print out or that you can email to the recipient. So we will record a sale. So I'm going to click onto Add New. So invoice prefix, so we're going to say this is haul hire, so we'll just put HH there. The customer is Mrs. Miggins, who we've already set up. So the payment will go into the current account, and you'll see that it's automatically come up with the sort code and the account number. And we're going to select a product, and this is where we're going to choose we'll choose rent from lands or buildings, because that's what we've got there, and we'll say that it was for half-day haul rental, and there's the amount for half-day haul rental for quantity of 1, which is £100. You can pop in a note down there at the bottom if you wanted to. So we'll click onto store, and it's just saying, is the sales invoice complete? Are you sure you want to post it? So we will say post. And again, just as a normal transaction, it's come up, it's given us the audit number, so we can say OK to that. And then if I go back, if I edit this invoice now and then scroll down, you'll see that we've now got an invoice print button here. And if I open that and preview, and then share that tab, you'll see that the system produces an actual invoice for you. So it's got the invoice number that we allocated to it, it's got the date, it's got the due date, it's got the recipient's details, and also information about the payment itself. Now you can print this out and send it in the post, or there is another way, a more streamlined way, that you can distribute it, and Carrie is actually going to talk you through that in a lot more detail later on. So I am just going to close that there and close this, and let me just screen share, go back to that screen share there. But another neat feature with the invoices is you can add your own branding. So rather than all of the invoices being generic from the system, you can add in your own branding and get it to look as a document sent from your organisation. So to do that, under the admin menu, you go into church, and then we're using St Luke's. So I'm going to click on edit under St Luke's. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to upload a logo. So I'm just going to choose file and navigate to the desktop, and there's our logo. So I will upload that onto there, and then you can also choose a primary and a secondary colour. So I'm just going to choose two very simple different colours, and you see you've got this little colour palette, or if you have a specific branding packaging, you know what the hex numbers are, so what the specific number codes are, you can just type it in to there instead. But I'm just using two wildly different colours so you can easily see where those are picked up on the invoice. And this is also where you would put in your account name and the sort code and account number, so that for printed invoices, the individuals know where to make the payment to. So if I save that and then go back to the sales and purchases, go back to list sales, and then edit. And if we view that invoice again, you'll see that it's now been updated. You can see the logo. Oh, let me just switch to this tab. There we go. So you can see that the invoice has been updated to match that colour scheme that we went through. You've got the logo, you've got the blue of the colour that I selected. And it just looks a little bit nicer. It looks like an easily recognisable document from your organisation. So when you're sending it out, the recipient can easily see that this is from your church or charity and who it relates to. So let me just go back to the main screen. Okay, also under the transaction assistant, you've got all the other input screens that you would have been familiar with if you're a finance coordinator user. So you've got the journal entry screen, which enables you to record those more complicated, difficult transactions, standing orders. So if you've got transactions that come in or go out of your organization regularly, you've got the option to set those up and then get the system to automatically generate them for you based on a frequency and a date. Again, under utilities, bank reconciliation works in a very similar way to finance coordinator. Under file utilities, you've got an activity log, which is a lot more in-depth and detailed than the one that was in finance coordinator. It's really useful specifically if you've got multiple users using the system, because you can clearly see who entered which transaction, who has done what activity, who has made what change and such within the software. So it really helps you to follow that through. Under the Create menu, as well as the Accounts Assistant, you've still got the facility to create templates, so you can create income and expenditure templates for transactions that don't have a regular frequency but are used regularly throughout the year. So it could be that you have like a window cleaner who doesn't come every week or every month. He comes sporadically throughout the year as and when you need them. You can create an expenditure template for that payment, which will populate the form automatically for you. This is where you create your standing orders, whether they're an income standing order or an expenditure standing order, and then you've got cost centres that you can set up for reporting, and also your income and expenditure budgets. Under the admin menu, another thing that we've improved on compared to the finance coordinator is the change log. So this is where essentially we let you know what has changed, what's improved, what's been updated on the system. We will tell you about new features or things that we've fixed. But mostly it's improvements and things that we've added that we feel that will be of interest to you and that we want to let you know about. The reports menu, a lot of the reports are very similar to finance coordinator. Stephen's going to go through some of the additional reports or some of the reports that have been changed and improved later on. By moving on to an online system, we have been able to make reports easier to use. One that sticks out really is the transaction listings report. So if I open that up, you'll see we've still got a lot of the flexibility that the previous transaction listings report offered. So you can set this up on very specific criteria, the financial period, particular nominal codes, particular funds, particular classes, and so on. You can set it to all of the transactions with a certain reference or a description. But the improvement really is when you open these drop-down lists, and you've got all of your nominal codes listed down. With Finance Coordinator, being able to select multiple nominal codes to report on or to do a group of nominal codes, there was a lot of key holding, and you had to hold the control key, you had to click on shift to do that. With this system, that's all gone. You've now got these handy checkboxes that you can just go down. So if I want to produce a report for a selection of nominal codes, you would just click on the tick box, click on to refresh, and then preview that report. Okay, so it just makes that a lot easier. It's a lot smoother to use, rather than having to use the control key or the shift key on your keyboard. Okay, so let me just get us back to the main screen. And at that point, I'm going to hand you back over to Stephen. So if you just bear with us.
Great, thanks, Paula. Okay, so if I just go, let's go back to the tab that I'm on, which is that one. And then if I go back to the main screen, okay, so Paula's shown what the differences are, or how things have developed into MyFundAccounting from Finance Coordinator. But what about your data? What about all the information you've got in Finance Coordinator? May go back a number of years and all that history of information. Can you pull that in easily to MyFundAccounting? Well, the answer is yes, you can. You can pull from a backup in Finance Coordinator, and it will import all of the information. So all that historical information, it will import that as well. So you won't lose any information. You can have it exactly like a mirror of Finance Coordinator as it is now. You make a backup, a normal backup that you do in Finance Coordinator, and then you might see I've gone to Admin, Import Transactions, Finance Coordinator, and then the last option was Import Data. You have two options, Overwrite or Append. That's append option is, let's say you've got three different churches or three different branches that are running their own independent finance coordinator, and you want to pull them together under one group. As we'll show later on, you'll be able to see that you can do the consolidated report. You can add users that can access maybe one church or one branch, or maybe two out of the three, or all of them. So putting them together under one umbrella can be really helpful, give you a number of extra options. And that's where you'd use the append. So you'd import the first one, and then the other two ones you'd append, you'd add to your existing group. So what you'd normally do is select Overwrite if you're brand new to MyFundAccounting, and then you go down. So I should have an old finance coordinator back up here. Just scroll down to where it is. Have I gone too far? Yes, I have. So there we go. So I've got one of our training sets there. So double click onto it and click on import. Now it's asking me which organisation, because the one I'm importing which group do I want it to go to? Well, we've got the Parish of Data Developments. I'm going to select Developments and save. And now it's giving me all the information that I can check. So if I want to check, have this got the funds, I can scroll through and have a look at my funds. If I want to have a look at the transactions, if I just scroll across, I can then have a look. Whoops, gone too far there. I can have a look at all the transactions that I've entered. I can see, are they the correct ones? If they are correct, I have to look at the nominal codes and check those as well. Then I click Trigger to Import. Now we don't do the imports immediately because we have quite a few people moving across from Finance Coordinator to MyFundAccounting, and it would slow the server down. So what we do is we actually do all the imports overnight. So trigger to import, put it into the queue, and then overnight it then imports into MyFundAccounting. The next morning, all of your data is there. It's all ready for you to use. So all the funds, the nominal codes, the histories, the transactions, you could literally post one transaction, your last transaction in Finance Coordinator, make a backup, import it in. The next day, you can start with the next transaction, and it will just flow on as easily and as simply as that, just for making a backup in Finance Coordinator, and as we just saw, importing it in. But that's not the only thing that we can import. So once you've got it set up in MyFundAccounting, once you've got your nominal codes, your funds and transactions, instead of having to use the record income, record expenditure transactions all the time, if you have access to your online bank account, you can download your transactions to your computer. So it's normally what's called a CSV file, or comma separated version. You can download that from your online bank account to your computer, and then you can import that into MyFundAccounting. So it saves you having to enter those transactions. A good example is if you've got your standing orders, if people donate by standing orders, or you've got, let's say, direct debit to go out and the amounts might vary, so standing orders isn't ideal for you, that's where you can import the transactions from your bank statements, all the regular ones, all the direct debit ones, for example, and then you can just save you having to enter those in. They'll be up to date with the dates, with the amounts, because it's come straight from the bank statement. So if I show how we do that, we go again back to admin, to import, to the bank statement, and I'm just going to go down to this second one first of all, the import from CSV. You select a template, you can add a new template. The template simply says to MyFundAccounting, this is where my transactions start, and in my downloaded file from the bank, the date column is called date, the transaction is called transaction description. So it just tells MyFundAccounting how your file is structured, so it knows what to do with it. I've got one already set up, so I'm going to pick and then click on choose file. So whichever one that you want to import from. My mouse isn't, there we go. So whichever file you've downloaded, so let's say I've got February 23 bank import, and then click import. Now it takes about 30 to 40 seconds because what we're actually going through at that moment is we found that for some reason banks can include strange characters. As they generate the export file from their system, it can include strange characters, which makes MyFundAccounting think that there's something wrong with the file, or there's someone's trying to hack or put strange characters in. So we're actually just checking every part of that file now to make sure that it hasn't got any strange characters, or if there are any in there, we're stripping them out, we're removing them from them. And then it shows in the bottom part of the screen. Now this part, from transaction date to the right, description, debit, credit, that's come straight from the bank statement, so that's imported it in. Now the information on the left hand side, where we've got transaction description and David Duggan, that's because this transaction has appeared in a statement before and MyFundAccounting memorized what it was. So now it's found transaction description David Duggan under the transaction description column. It's remembered it as that it's already seen this transaction before, so it knows what to do with it. It knows on the next screen, as we go into a moment, you'll see that it's already preloaded, it's already remembered the nominal codes and funds to use. So I'm going to say, yes, I do want to include those. The reason we don't include everything automatically, and there might be transactions you don't want to import in. So as I mentioned, regular donations, direct debits, you might want to include. but there'll be other ones you might not want to. Maybe you've entered them in My Giving and transferred them across, or maybe you've already entered them in MyFundAccounting. You don't want to. So that's why we don't select everything. You can, if you want, include all at the top. That would include them all, but I'm just going to pick the ones that I want to include. And so here's one that we haven't linked. So if I wanted to use this one, if I wanted it so David Smith Jones was going to be a regular donor, I can tick, I can map it, so remember the information is in transaction description, and then I can just copy, paste that keyword in. So next time, if it sees David Smith Jones on the next screen, when we say which nominal code it's for, it will remember it. I'm not going to do that on this time. So I'm just going to have it as a transaction, a one-off transaction, if you like. So I click on the next screen. I've got those 3 transactions. Which bank account they're going into? I'll do the main one. You can see with David Duggan, it had remembered David Duggan from previously, so it's already selected the gift aid, the description, the amount, and the description. Now you can choose to either have the description from the bank statement, or you can put your own description in and then tell MyFundAccounting to use the memorized description instead. And you can see that's what's happened here. So Adam Blue is the second one we ticked. It's split, so it saw £15 on the bank statement. We've already said before, when we receive a donation from Adam Blue, £10 goes to the general fund, £5 goes to Fabric Fund. It's remembered that split. You can break that transaction down to as many different levels as you wish. And you can see here, we're also using our own description that we want. This one, David Smith Jones, it hasn't appeared before, so it doesn't know what to do with it. So it's now asking us, and we can say it goes into Gift Aid Bank. Fund is general, it's £10, and description, in future, I might want it to use SO 41, 42. And that's it. If I want to import those transactions, I can now just click Import. There are 3 waiting to be imported. Do you want to continue and print it? I'll say no, but that will produce an audit report of those ones. Now that's where you download and then import them in. If you remember where we got to that import screen, where that first screen where we had the list of nominal codes and the ones that were pre-remembered. If you don't want to, if you don't want to download a CSV, you can connect MyFundAccounting directly to your online bank account. And then that will pull those transactions in. So it saves you having to do the download of CSV and the import in. It will produce it into that first screen. So that's into admin, import, import from bank statement, and this time import from bank. Select the bank that you want to import. So I'm going to do PayPal. And then fetch accounts. Now, I can't go any further because this is actually a live link that would actually pull in all the transactions from our live PayPal account. But essentially what you do is, let's say it was Lloyd's bank account, you'd then select, if you've got several different Lloyd's bank accounts, you could then select the relevant one, put the date range of the transactions you want to include, and then show the transactions. And that will put it to that exact same screen that you had when you imported the transactions using the CSV, where you've got all the transactions listed. You can memorize them, you can move on to the next screen, you can post the transactions. That part is exactly the same. This saves you having to do the download a CSV. It just pulls it straight from your live bank account. Now to do that, we have to do what's called Know Your Customer checks. So you need to apply to data development to do it. We do all the checks. We then authorize it in the background. So yes, we've done the various different ID checks. The banks will then give you access. And essentially what happens then is each 90-day period, the first time you click Fetch Accounts, it will then connect to your particular bank. There's a list of all the UK banks, 200 odd banks. You select yours, log in. It says, do you want to create this connection? If you say yes, that connection is live on your user account, so no other users can access it, just your user account, and then you can pull the transactions in. So it just saves time if you want, or it just means you can, without having to log into a different system, you can pull the transactions in directly. What you can also do, that's using what's called open banking. So in the finance sector, it's called open banking. But we can also do other actions through open banking. So you'll see a bit later on, Carrie will talk about making payments for the invoices. That's done through open banking because it's simpler and it's a lot cheaper. Normally, it's free if you're just doing transfer across. There are no transaction charges. So we've also got dual authorized payments. So this really came up for us when COVID hit and churches closed and churches still needed to make payments, but they were making payments with checks and they would have to ordinarily go to another person to get it dual authorized. You couldn't do that. So how could people make payments? The obvious question at the time was to activate online banking with your particular bank, but quite a few of the banks at the time said, yes, you can do online banking, but it's just a single authorization. Either it's not possible to dual authorization with your community account, or you have to pay extra for it. So this is what we designed in MyFundAccounting, that it will control the dual authorization. So it will go out, ensure that the payment is dual authorized before submitting the payment to the bank, and it can be a single authorization gets to the bank because you've already done the dual authorization system. So how it works, and the transaction system, online banking, new transfers. You then build it up as a new transaction. So it could be remitter reference, it could be, say, it's a Viking one that I'm paying, and then which nominal code this is it for. Let's say it's for home mission. How much? So you're just building up a normal transaction. Say it's £35. Select your supplier, Viking Direct. It pulls in the account code and sort code. Add in your account number with Viking Direct. Next step, which fund it is. So you can see it's just like a normal transaction that we're just building up as we go through. This is where it's then slightly different. You can now add a reason for payment. You could say new suppliers. In the invoice prefix and number. And you can also upload a copy of the invoice. So this is where you want to pay an invoice, you want to pay a bill. You can then attach it and then click next step. It's reviewing the transaction as all the assistants do, but then in the bottom right hand corner we've now got request authorization for payment. So what that's going to do is it will send out an email to people that are authorized to confirm, to dual authorize that payment. Send out an email saying Stephen's raised this payment request. Here's what it is, what's it for. This is a copy of the invoice that's attached. Are you happy to confirm, to authorize that payment? And I have two options. Yes, I'm happy to confirm it. No, I don't want it confirmed. If all the people that you need to authorize it confirm, then it'll be authorized and you can make the payment. If one person says, actually, I'm not happy, no, I don't like that, or I think we've already paid that, I think this is a duplicate, they can click cancel and cancel the whole payment in there because it requires on the dual authorization. Now you, as being the person that raised the payment, will also receive an email. So it's a confirmation email to you saying, are you happy you did actually raise this payment? If it was a mistake, if it wasn't you, please cancel, and you can cancel it straight away. So you still have that control to make sure that if somebody's got hold of your user and password and they're trying to make a payment to themselves, you'll get the notification. It will go to your email address. They can't change email address. It'll go to your email address. You could cancel it. So at this point, you click request for authorization, and then the invoice would then be sent out. Now I've got one in true Blue Peter style. that we already set up earlier. So when you send it out, you'll then receive that email. When people authorize it, you'll receive an email or notification saying, yep, this has now been authorized, it's ready to make payment. You can then go into Sent Authorization Requests. And I should have a couple over here. There we go. So where it's been rejected, you can see it's been rejected. They can delete it because it's not going to be paid. You can delete it off the system. This is where you've got one that's pending and it's waiting to be approved. And then here you've got some that's been approved and you've got the options cancel it, pay it, or if it's been paid elsewhere. So if you've already raised a check or if you've done it through a different method, you can say, actually, mark this one as paid. For this one, I'm going to click on process. I actually want to make the payment now. So it's been authorized. Now I want to make the payment through the bank. So are you sure you wish to go ahead and process it? Yes, I do. Now this goes to our mock open banking screen. So it's not obviously the live one, but you see here a list of all those 200 odd banks. You click on Barclays, Lloyds, whichever one is your bank account. You click on it and then it connects to your banking system. So it's nothing to do. We don't get access to it. We can't see this. This is switched onto your bank's website. And then you'd log in with your normal details. So I'm just going to copy our test details over. So that's your normal, if you use a gizmo, if however you log in, it will then take you to your login screen with your bank. It will tell you at the top, there it is, who you're paying, the amount and the reference, which bank end you want to pay it from, and then you just click on continue. It will make the payments, so it tells us that, so all we actually know is that you've gone off, you made the payment, the bank then tells us that the payment has been successful, it's gone through, and then we update this and post it, convert it to a posted transaction for the one that you've entered in there. So that will now appear automatically in your list transactions. Okay, so what we've also got, which Paula touched on earlier, is that you can create different users. So either if you've just got one church or one branch account, or if you've got 3 or 4, and you want to assign users to a particular church or a particular branch, or a number of them or group of them, you can create as many different users in MyFundAccounting as you wish. So we don't have a limit on how many you want. If you want an assistant, if you want people to help you with different tasks, so maybe they're just do the record expenditure, or they're just do produce reports, or they've got read-only access if they're trustees, so they can produce reports but can't touch anything. You can set all that up as you wish. And to do that, under admin, users and security, and I'll go through custom roles and permissions first of all. So this is where you can set up the different roles. So you see we've got assistant, examiner. You could give your independent examiner, your auditor, login access to MyFundAccounting. Read only, maybe, so they can produce reports, they can have a look at all the information themselves. You don't need to send them the information. As Paula showed, you can attach documents to transactions. So they could go through the list of transactions and see the source document related to those transactions, all just by giving them a login. If they need anything else, if they need the physical copies of the receipts or the physical invoices, then they can have a look at that, or the physical bank statements, you can send that. But it saves lots of work beforehand. So you might create a new assistant, you give it a title, assistant, and then under permissions, essentially what we've done is we've replicated all the menu options. So it's easy to visualize, or I find it easy to visualize. I don't want them to have access to that. I'll just turn that menu option off. And you'll see you've got all the different options down there: budgets, reports, funds. You can create budgets to produce budget reports. This is where you could say, well, they can do record expenditure, but I don't want to do record income, or I don't want to do standing orders. You can pick and choose exactly what they have access to. I'm just going to cancel that. So once you've created the role with your permissions, then you can go back to users and security and users. That's where you can then create them as a user. So I'm just going to edit one rather than start a brand new one. Which role is it that you're giving them? Give them a name, email address, give them a user ID. It does need to be a unique user ID. Need to put the address in. So you could, if you don't want to put personal addresses in, you could put your church or charity address in there. And then you then set them up with a password and a question in there if they forget the password. Now, when they first log in, they can go to the profile and change the password if they wish. We can't see what people's passwords are. As a user, you can see what somebody else's password are. If they've forgotten it, then they've got the password question. If they still can't remember it, as the administrator, you can come in, you can change the password to back to say a default one, give it to them, they can then log in and then update the password. So that's all the login details. Name, user ID, so that's the user ID is what they'd log in with, and then the password that you've given them. And then under edit data access, if you've got more than one church or branch, this is where you can say, I just want them to have access to St Luke's or St Matthew's or the Wolverhampton branch. You can pick and choose or group more than one of them as to what they can and can't see. And then that person, so was it the data dev user, they'd log into MyFundAccounting, data dev user, and they'd just have access to St Luke's. And you can see also we've got add Microsoft user. We'll come back to that later. But you can see just to show that I've actually got access to all the different ones within this data, and I've also got access to another one. So that that's develop user will just have access to St Luke's. So you can control what they can see, which church or branch they can access to, and you can change that. You can develop that over time. If it's somebody that you're training up to be a replacement, you may start them off as just doing the record income and maybe a couple of reports and then build it up. Maybe they then do the expenditure, maybe they do some payments, maybe they do bank reconciliation. You can build it up all in that way. But you saw then the structure that we've got. So in this one, we've got a group. So let's say you had a group of 3 churches that were grouped together in a parish, or let's say you had a group of 3 branches, charity branches that were grouped together in an area, Black Country area or West Midlands, for example. The group is the umbrella that they're grouped under, and then you've got each individual church or each individual branch underneath that. You can report on each individual church. You can report on the whole group, consolidated reports as a group. If you've got several different groups, you can then produce a report on all of the groups if you wanted, if that was needed. That tends to be more for charities than churches. Or you could produce reports on different groups around, maybe if it's a benefice, for example. So how do you do that? Well, let's have a look first of all at a few reports. So I'm at the moment in St Luke's, and we've got all sorts of different reports. So if I go and produce a sofa, the designated column, I'll leave it for this year. And preview, you can see we've got, this is what's happened so far this year with the St Luke's. Safe report exactly the same as it is in Finance Coordinator, so total income, total expenditure, and then how the organisations work. So income minus expenditure. Oh, sorry, so that's a SOF report that it shows in there. And if I just quickly do the balance sheet, so I'll just do a couple of reports. Again, I'll set that for this year. You can see you can export them as PDF, Excel, portrait, landscape, give it a file name, download it email it to people. If I preview, there you can see the balance sheet, and these fund totals will match the fund totals on the SOFA, exactly the same as Finance Coordinator. And I could do other reports. We've got a whole series of other reports. Financial controls, this is a newly named one, so this is very much come from independent examiners and trustees, auditors, where they wanted the report to do financial controls into one place. So you can produce that. That's again slightly different to how it was in Finance Coordinator. You can see we've got receipts and payment reports, the SOFA, the balance sheets, etc., and all the other reports as well. So what about if I wanted to do, no, that's where you can report on a single church. In this example, it's a single church. But what happens if I want to do a consolidated report? So I've got 3 different churches or 3 different branches. I can produce reports separately on them, exactly as I've just done here. But how would I consolidate them together? Well, all you do is go at the top of the screen, edit report settings. You'd set up a report. So I've got one there. Parish of data, it's got 3 churches. And you simply set that up by giving it a name and then selecting the churches there, saving the setting, which financial year is it, and then I've got 2 options down here. Because I've used the same group of nominal codes, the same nominal codes or largely the same nominal codes for each of the different branches, each different churches, I can say merge all the common codes onto one line so they're not listed one after the other and taking a lot more paper. I can also show me the church or the branch names on the report, so I can see if it's a large report, I can see this relates to, was it St Luke's, this one relates to St Matthew's. I can see how they relate. I'm not going to tick that one as yet. I'll just show the merge and then I'll come back to that. So apply and continue. And now if I go to reports, SOFA, I'll produce exactly the same SOFA report this year and preview. And you can see now the totals are different. So we've got 52 and 42. Actually, I should have done it last year. I've got a lot more transactions in last year. But that will be consolidated for all, sorry, there we go. That will be the consolidated one for all the different branches in that one. If I go back to the balance sheet, that should show a much clearer difference. I should have done the SOFA for last year. But if I do the balance sheet, I'll do that for this year as I did previously. And preview. You see now that's showing much larger figures because it is consolidating all those different branches, those 3 different churches together. But all you've done is you've changed one setting and then produced a report, and it consolidates as simply and as easily for that as on that. Now if I go back and I'll add that setting, so go back to report settings and I'll just tick to allow branch, apply, and I'll go back to the SOFA report. I will do the SOFA report this time for last year just because I know it's got more information in. And there you can see, oh sorry, there you can see now, because I've said show me the labels, now it's got St Matthew's, St Mark's and St Luke's, and then we can see the consolidated totals for all the different elements down there. If I produce that for the balance sheet, so if I go to reports, balance sheet, detailed, I can do this for this year. And there you can see, for example, at the top, you can see each fixed asset is slightly different. We've got different ones, but we can see which church has got which fixed asset. And then down here, we've got some that have got the same bank account number, you can see those consolidated. It could be they even share that bank account and you can see the shared value, but then you can see all the different assets and then the different liabilities that we've got shown down there. So that can be really useful. I tend to produce the reports without the labels, without the church labels first of all. If there's a query or if the trustees require more information, then I can produce it and it'll show all the information across. Okay, so what about at year end? What about when we want to produce the trustees' annual report? Or we've been asked, I know before this meeting, we were asked to produce the return of parish finance, or to show the return of parish finance, which is more specifically for Church of England. So I'll go through both of those options now. So under reports, you'll now see that we've got annual financial statements. Similar to Finance Coordinator, you pick the reports that you want included in your trustees annual report. You can pick the different headings down there, and then when it comes to generate the Word documents, I have it set for last year. We can preview and print the selected reports that we want at the moment. And then, as we've got with Finance Coordinator, you can pick the files to introduce. So that should have intro and conclusion. And then just click to produce. Now, because I'm still working on a group level, I've consolidated the reports. The trustees' annual report will be the one for the trustees. It'll be all those three churches or branches consolidated together for the reporting. I could, if I wanted, produce individual trustees' annual reports for each individual church if they wanted it for their meeting, if that was useful for them. And then just by changing that switch, produce it to the consolidated one. Let's see, it takes a few seconds. The report is available, so if I open that, that will open Word, and then I'll just change the screen sharing over, hopefully. Let's see if I can change that screen sharing, because that's come up in a different tab. So if I stop screen sharing here, and see if I can open that Word document. Okay, and there we should see, that's our default template, but there you've got the statement of financial activities. It is an editable Word document, so if I wanted to add some text in, I can still do that. If I wanted to put some charts and graphs and pictures in, you can do that as well. You could click where you want it inserted, but actually I don't want that at the bottom of the line, I want that the start text page, but that could give me some space here where I could then insert some charts and graphs. So how do I do that? Well, let me stop sharing here. Let me go back into MyFundAccounting. This one, I'm going to go into our test one just because we're just finishing off the testing for this. But you will, in the next few days, be able to produce charts and graphs directly from MyFundAccounting. As I say, we're just finishing off the testing. We hoped it would be updated for today, but unfortunately, we just found, as typical of these things, we found some problems last night. So we're just correcting those before we release them. But how you get to the charts and graphs is under reports. And then they're attached to various different reports. So let's say if I go to funds and go down to fund totals. So if you want an overall view, so let me just set this to our demo account, which is that one if I remember rightly. And go back to fund totals. I can select which fund I want to report on. I'll just select all. I don't think I've used them all in this particular one. preview, and then here on the left hand side is where you'll see include chart. So if I include chart, they can then select the chart, and there you can see we've just got two funds in this account. The vast majority of it is general fund, and we've also got some building fund. We can see that if we wanted through different types: designated, endowment, restricted. So I'm going to show just the pie chart and then click done. And then if I preview, there you'll see that's the normal report as it was, and there we've got the chart and graph include. So there you'll see the normal report, and there you've got the chart and graph included beneath. And there'll be a number of different reports that we can do this on. So if I go back, I'll just look at a couple more because I can see Carrie just waiting to come and take over. So I'll just do two more reports. So safe designated, safe report rather. Oh, let me go back. Include the chart and graph. I won't actually produce the report, but here you can see our income, how it's broken down by the different server headings, our expenditure, and our total income versus expenditure. Again, these can be really useful reports to include in. Let's just pick that one, for example. Oops, let me just turn that screen share back on. Quite sure how I managed to turn that off. So that was safe, and I'll do one more, which is the transactions and then income and expenditure comparative figures. So I'll do this very quickly. So let's set the period for the 1st of January 2023. Okay. And then, whoops, 1st of January 2023, 31st of March 2023. I could do it for the second quarter, so first quarter, 1st of April 2023, 30th of June. And I'll just pick a couple of accounts. I'm just going to pick a couple of income accounts. So let's see, what have I got? I've got that one and that one. And I'll just do it for general fund and new build restricted. Select the chart. Oh, okay, I didn't have any on that information. Let me just very quickly, because I'm sure I've got some. Let's very quickly do it all, but if I haven't got any on there, then I will just describe what it is. Okay, so that's essentially what it'll show. So it'll show last year in one colour and then this year in a new colour. So you can produce that for selected nominal codes, selected funds. So if you're producing a report or analysis as to what's happened, then you can do that. You can show those charts and graphs can be really useful. And as we saw with the trustees annual report, you can then add those in. So I'm just going to switch very quickly back into MyFundAccounting, go back to the main screen in dashboard, and then hand over to Carrie.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay, so I am going to be talking a little bit about some quite new little elements of the MyFundAccounting.Online that have come quite recently. So I'm going to start off by talking about something that Paula mentioned earlier with the invoice payment links. So if I go over to our dashboard here, and I'm just going to go straight back to the invoices section where you were with Paula earlier. So we'll go to sales and purchases. And we'll take a look at the list of sales, because I believe that Paula recorded a sale for me earlier to take a look at. There we go. So if I go to click edit onto a sale, so of course you can add a new sale as you did previously when you're recording an invoice, but I'm just going to edit this existing one here. So when you're actually sending an invoice payment link out to a customer, the most important bit is this section here where it's got all this information that you're going to need to fill in. So I'm actually just going to select the bank account that this is going to be recorded into the system, first of all here, where it's got the current account. And then it's going to ask for a remitter reference there. So that's going to be the reference on the bank statement. So I'm just going to put, what actually is this for? I'm just going to put Viking here. And I'm actually going to put the same thing in the beneficiary reference as well. There we go. And then I'm going to use a customer email that I can actually access so that I can show you what happens when you actually go through processing a payment from the email. So once you've got all that information filled in there, you can then use this button here, send customer email. So I'm just going to click on that now. And there you go. You see that you've got a little message there that says that the email's been sent successfully. So how this will appear in your inbox is that you'll get an email. It will show the invoice. So the invoice exactly as you saw it when Paula showed you earlier as a PDF. And then directly below the invoice, there will be a little button where you can click to process the payment. So I am just going to process the payment here. Let's find that. Okay. So you should now see the bank screen. So when you do click on that little button in the email that comes through, well, when the customer clicks on it, it will then take them through to where they can log into their banking. So I'm just going to take you through the process of making the payment. So if I just fill this in so that we can show you what it looks like once that has actually gone through. So this is the customer going through, making the payment, choosing their bank account and so on. And then that's processing. And then this is what the customers will see. It will give them some information about the payment to the bank account being processed successfully. And it will also give an audit number for that transaction. I believe that Paula did show the activity log earlier as well. And the process, like you will get a little message as well in the activity log that will tell you that a payment has been successfully processed. So you yourself, as the treasurer, would be able to see that that has happened. And that's that transaction automatically posted into your accounts. So that's another transaction that you don't have to worry about manually settling or manually posting. It's all automatically gone into the system. So if I actually just go through to list transactions from here, there you go. We can see that that transaction has been posted right there. And you can see that it says at the posting screen, record a sale by TrueLayer Transfer. So you can see that that's been posted using that screen. And there you go. So that is a really convenient way to process invoices, to send them out to the customer directly, and then they can just pay them straight away by clicking a link in the email. Okay, so that is one of the new things that we do have. So I'm just going to head back to the dashboard here. Now, the next thing that I'm going to be talking a little bit about is integration with Microsoft 365. So I think Paula did mention it a little bit earlier, but I'm going to be showing you how you do actually set up that connection. So first of all, you will need a business Microsoft 365 account. You are able to have access to a business Microsoft 365 account for free. It is something that is offered for you for charities and non-profit organisations. So I believe that we do have a link that we can send out to you. So either we'll be able to put that in the chat at the end, or if you email in support@datadevelopments.co.uk, we can send you out a link to where you can start that process. But once you do have your Microsoft 365 business account, you can go to your profile in MyFundAccounting.Online here, and you can see that there is a section here on the profile that says Microsoft 365 permission. And this is where you input the information. So mine's already connected, so I'm not going to change anything there because it's already all set up. But you will see that you just select which particular branch or church that you want to connect. And then you just need this tenant ID. When you're setting this up, we can provide you information about how to access the tenant ID, but this will be something that you can get from your Microsoft 365 account. Once you've got that, you just pop it into the box there, and then you enter your MyFundAccounting login password, and you click the Connect to Microsoft 365 button there. And that will connect your Microsoft 365 business account to your MyFundAccounting.Online organisation or branch, whichever level you chose to set it up as. Now, once that is done, you can then go to the Microsoft 365 Members tab. Just ignore that because we don't have any other users. We don't have any other users here to show you this, but this is where you would have a list of all the users in the organisation or branch, and it would tell you each one would have a little drop-down menu next to them where you can select their Microsoft 365 user account. So you'll just see their Microsoft 365 email in there, and you can connect them up so that their personal MyFundAccounting user account is connected to their Microsoft 365 user account. So they're all linked up. Once those links have been established and they're all made, that user will then be able to make full use of the Microsoft 365 integration. So that's a little bit of what Paula was showing you earlier. So if I just go to the record income screen now from here, I'm just going to record a normal income transaction just at the start of the year. So we'll just record something here. Let's see. And this is where you can choose a file to add. I'm not sure if I do have a file at all. Actually, I've got something here that I think we can add. And then we can just continue posting. So you've added the file there. You can add lots of different file types. So PDFs, JPEGs, PNGs, anything like that that you might need, like a Word document. They can all be added onto the document. I believe it just needs to be 4 megabytes or less. So once that's all posted, you will see, and you've chosen your file, you will see in blue writing just below the file that you've chosen. If you need to delete that file, you can just press the little dustbin icon next to it, and that will be deleted. Otherwise, you can then click the store button, and that will post that transaction. There we go. I'm just going to go back to our list of transactions now to show you what that looks like. And there you go. You can see there against the transaction, the audit number, you've got a little paperclip icon, and that means that there is a file stored against that particular transaction, and you'll see that the file is actually there, so you can actually access that directly from the transaction itself, and anyone in the organization who has access to the 365 will be able to see that and access it as well. So that's really useful if there's a particular file that's going to be helpful in relation to a transaction. You don't have to carry it around, you can store it there directly. Anything that is posted to MyFundAccounting.Online attached to a transaction will also be posted into a little MyFundAccounting.Online folder in your 365 account. So when you go into your OneDrive, you'll see it there. If anything is deleted from MyFundAccounting, so if I were to delete this, but for example, that would also be deleted from the 365 OneDrive account. You can also just open it by clicking this button here. And if I wanted to delete it, you can see, are you sure you want to delete this file from OneDrive? Yes. And then it's deleted, and you can see that that icon is no longer against the audit number, against the transaction. So that is how you actually post those files to those transactions. You can use any transaction assistant option to anything under the transaction assistant you can attach files to. I believe the only one that you can't manually attach a file is the sales and purchases when you're recording an invoice, but that is actually automatically attached anyway. So it creates an invoice for you and automatically attaches it to the transaction. So that is the Microsoft 365 integration. So if I go back to the dashboard now. Right, so the next thing I'm going to be talking about are two really convenient options. I'm going to be talking about the rollback function and the testing area function. So these are two things that are going to be really helpful, especially if you're coming from finance coordinator and you're used to being able to restore to a backup file. So it used to be in finance coordinator that you could make a backup file, put in some transactions, and if you didn't like the effect that they had on the accounts or anything like that, you could just restore to that backup. And that was really useful if you did want to try any transactions out. Well, now we have two different options for this that can be helpful. So first of all, we've got the rollback function. So the rollback function allows you to actually roll back to a certain point in time that will then erase any transactions that have been put in since that point in time. It will also undo bank reconciliation, things like that. I believe that there's a few things that it won't undo, like year-end procedures and things like that. But bank reconciliations, transactions that you've put in, everything like that will be undone. So if I just show you how you can actually use the rollback feature, if you go to the admin menu and go to rollback, you'll see it's just got a little date option there for you. You can then use that to restore to a point in time. So say I wanted to restore to earlier today. Let's go to 11 o'clock this morning. I believe there are some restrictions with how far back you can roll back. I think it's 3 months, so I would be able to go back 3 months in time here. But whoops, let's just click on that again. So I'm going to leave it at the 14th of July, so today at 11 AM, and I'm going to roll back to that point there. So if I click on the rollback button, so this will remove any data that was added after the time. So this is where it tells you everything that it will remove: transactions, reconciliations, any funds or nominal accounts that have been entered, any budgets, memorized and regular transactions as well, any suppliers, grants and agencies. So it does give you a little warning there that we might not be able to recover that data once it's been removed. Are you sure you want to continue? We just say yes. And that has actually rolled back our data. So if I go to our list of transactions now, there we go. We see success, data rolled back successfully. And we can see that those transactions that we entered just earlier, so those the invoices that we put in and settled that were there for £75, they've gone now. So anything that we've entered beyond that point that we rolled back to has now gone. So that can be really useful if you've input a large amount of data or even a small amount of data and you wish to just restore to that point. Something that can be really useful for that as well is the activity log. So if you go to the activity log here under utilities, you will see that those transactions, anything that has been put in, anything that's happened, has a date and a timestamp against it. So you can use that date and timestamp. If there's a particular audit number that you want to roll back to that point, you can just go into the activity log and find out exactly when that was entered, so you know where to roll back to. You can also see any rollbacks in the activity log. So if anything like that happens, if there's any transactions, you can just take a look there and see that that date has been rolled back, and also who performed the rollback there. So another option that you can use is our new testing area option. So you'll see up here at the top, we've got the testing area. This is an area that you can turn it on, go into the program, and then input any transactions. These are stored temporarily, so they're not actually posted into your system, but you can view reports and things that will include those transactions. If you're happy with what you've done, you can then decide to officially post those transactions to your system, or if you're not happy with anything that's been posted, you can just discard them. So to go into the testing area, you can just click the testing area button up at the top here. You'll see next to it there's a little red dot there. That means we're not currently in the testing area. So if I click on that, it's going to tell me that it will sign me out to enable the feature. So I'm just going to say yes, and then I'm going to log back in. There we go. So once we've logged back in, it will tell you that you're in the testing area. You will also see that the testing area is enabled up here. So this green bar here will be there to keep you reminded that you are in the testing area. And you can see that you've got this little green dot here at the top now, so it's now green. And that means that we're in the testing area. We can then record any transactions. So if I just go back in. If I just quickly record a transaction here, we'll just leave that blank and store that. I'm going to post it. Usually you would get an audit number here, but it's just giving me the audit number 0. That's because it's a temporary transaction. So if I go and look at that audit number in the list transactions now, it's just loading. It does actually have a null option next to it. So it does say null in the audit number column. That means it hasn't actually been posted properly. So, but if I were to go and look at my reports now, I would be able to see the effect that that transaction had on my bank accounts, on any income and expenditure codes, for example. So let's say I didn't like the effects that that had on our system. I can scroll back up to the top and I can just click on the testing area button again. Now this is where you are able to exit and save the transactions if you are happy with what you've done in the testing area. If not, I can just click exit and discard transactions. It'll sign me out. I'll just sign back in there. There we go. You can see that we're no longer in the testing area now that we've signed back in. If I go to my list transactions, there we go. And if I just scroll down, you'll see, yeah, we're back to where we were before. So those transactions that we entered, the £10 that we put in, are no longer in the system. So the testing area can be really useful if there's some transactions that you're maybe not entirely confident with, you want to go into the testing area and try those out before you actually post them. You can see what effect they have on your bank account and then decide to commit them or not. So that can really help you out if you are a bit nervous about certain types of transactions. But for now, I'm just going to go back to the dashboard because I believe I'm handing back over to Stephen now. So if you bear with me one moment.
Great. Okay, thanks, Kerry. So, just the final part that I was going to go through, again, one of the new features that we've just added in to MyFundAccounting is a full payroll system. Now, there is an extra expense for this because we've actually connected to another organisation called Shape Pay, who are experts in payroll and producing payroll software. And we've integrated that into MyFundAccounting and added some extra facilities in. So when the payment's made, if, for example, let's say it's a youth worker and you're getting a 50% grant, when you create that youth worker in the payroll system, you can say whatever their pay is, their salary is 50% paid by this grant, or it's coming from restricted money. You can separate a bit like we did with the import from bank accounts, a bit like we do with record income, record expenditure, where you can break it into different elements. You can set that split, how it breaks it up, on the employee record, and then each time the payment's processed or the payroll is processed, it generates a pay slips and it generates the transactions with that split automatically built in, and it will post it straight into the system. So the additional cost for it, the cost is £5 per month, and that includes 5 pay slips per month, so 5 employees getting paid once a month. That will be the total cost of £5 per month. For each employee over and above the 5, it's an additional £1 in there. So still a very cost-effective system integrated in, so it's saving you a lot of time and work. So where it's built in, well, we have to activate it on the system, but it'll be under the Create menu, and then you'll see we've got Payroll and Manage Payroll. I'm not going to spend a lot of time with it. I could spend another 45, 50 minutes on it, but I'm not going to because we're already longer than we anticipated to be. So this is where you set up the customers, the pensions. It configures with Nest, but you can do other pension providers. You can have a pay run. It submits your RTI. When you do a pay run, it sends a pay slips out to by email, or you can print them out to your employees. It produces the P32 forms. It submits the RTI information directly to the HMRC, and you can see it's all built in the liabilities. It records them as a liability in MyFundAccounting. So until you've paid those liabilities, which might be straight away or might be a couple of days later, it will show in your balance sheet as a liability, and then when you settle those, it will clear that off the liability automatically for you. So that's just a very quick overview of the payroll system that's built in there. You can have all sorts of different pay frequencies: daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, etc. It takes into account sickness pay, maternity pay, student loans, everything that you'd see with a normal payroll system. You can see it's all built in there, and will run that for you. So I hope that's been helpful for you. I hope the webinar has been really useful for you. If you do have any queries, please feel free to contact us on the sales or support line. And I'll just stop screen sharing. Let me just turn off the screen share. So thank you for watching. These are the numbers if you've got any queries that you'd like to ask us. So please feel free to email support@datavems.co.uk. You can give us a call, or if you want to start your trial, so you can do a free 30-day trial of MyFundAccounting. We don't take any credit card, any details, no payment details at all. You can import your finance coordinator back up into the trial, so you can see exactly how it will work with your real data in there. And then at the end of 30 days, either the access will stop, or you can then sign up and then you get the continued access. And wherever you've left off, we just simply convert that into a live account and you can carry on, or you can completely wipe the information and start completely fresh. So you can either scan the QR code or you can go to our website and sign up for the free trial there. Just a quick shout out for the Treasurer support group and the Gift Aid support group. Treasurer mainly for MyFundAccounting. So We do free treasure training, so we've got one starting in a couple of weeks on Thursday, if I remember rightly. And it's all about what the role of the treasure is. Nothing to do with our software. It's what's the role of the treasure, what are accounts, what are funds, what are good financial controls, how do you set a budget, etc., etc. It's a course about that. Out of that course grew the need for a support group for treasurers. So treasurers helping treasurers. And that's what we've got on Facebook, a treasurer support group. If you search Facebook, treasurer support group, you'll see the group. We moderate it in terms of who joins and the comments that are made. Just make sure there's no adverts, there's no inappropriate comments, etc. And we remove them if any do appear. But apart from that, we tend to take a backward seat because our emphasis for it is treasurers helping treasurers. It's not related to our software. It's purely that purpose for how do you handle this, or this is what I've got in this situation. So please, if that's of interest to you, search Treasurer Support Group on Facebook and request to join. So I hope that's been helpful. And again, if you do have any queries, please get in contact with us, or please feel free to try the free trial for 90 days. Sorry, for 30 days. Many thanks.